Keep Leading Podcast. The Keep Leading Podcast is dedicated to leadership development and insights. I'm your host, Eddie Turner. I work with emerging and experienced leaders to accelerate performance and drive impact through the power of executive coaching, masterful facilitation, and keynote speeches. Today, I am broadcasting live on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. I'm joined by Dr. Karthik Ramanan. He's the author of The Emotionally Healthy You, a practical guide for anyone who's exhausted from battling their own thoughts and stuck in cycles of stress, self doubt, and burnout. Unlike other books that focus on fixing mental illness, Dr. K believes you're not broken and instead offers a powerful framework called the five pillars of emotional health. Now, how good is this book, which was just released on Audible in addition to being available as a Kindle paperback and hardcover? None other than Jeff Hazlett, the chairman of the C Suite Network, who's also a primetime television and podcast host himself, says Dr. Karthik has written the new prescription for mastering your emotional health. It's like a business pharmacy for your mind. Well, we're going to dig into that today in our discussion. So, here to help us move beyond protecting our past and step into a life of purpose, clarity, and joy is Dr. Karthik Ramanan. Dr. K, welcome to the Keep Leading Podcast.
Thank you, Eddie. I'm excited to be here.
Well, I'm excited to have you. You have a fascinating background, and I've been waiting a long time to interview you. So I'm happy that that day is finally here. Please tell our listeners just a little bit about your background.
Absolutely. Well, several years ago, I was a successful professional on Wall Street, out of college, really just focused on one thing and one thing only, like learn as much as I can, move forward as quickly as I could. Also coincided with the Great Recession. So that's already a stressful industry. And to add the layers of, the banks around us are crumbling, friends of mine at work are getting laid off. The only thing I knew how to do was work harder and become as indispensable as possible. And so I did that and I was rewarded for it. I was able to get my own apartment, pay off my student loans from undergrad, pay off my parents' credit card debt. I was giving more to charity than I ever thought I could at that age. And I absolutely struggled inside. Nobody knew how much I was just sitting in self-criticism and loathing and talking about those thoughts in your head that would just never go away, putting yourself down. And I responded the only way I knew how: be a perfectionist, a people pleaser, do as much as you can to just, succeed. But I just found that the harder that I worked, the more I burned out and the less happy I actually was. I started questioning, what is this all for? If, we can be successful on the outside and yet miserable on the inside. Well, I hit rock bottom at a certain point, and I saw my sister after a 3-month window of time. In those 3 months, she had lost 30 pounds. Her cystic acne had cleared up. She was radiant and vibrant. And I was just at that point of desperation where I said, okay, whatever you did, I'm going to do to the T, right?
Okay.
And she goes, well, I've just been eating a raw food, plant-based diet, fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds, just as they're found from the earth. And I said, oh my God, that sounds horrible. Show me how to do this, because I got nothing to lose. Rock bottom is a beautiful place because we have nothing to lose. We are willing to say yes to the things that we otherwise would never say yes to. And that was the turning point for me. Okay. I shed the willingness to only do things with, perfectionism, et cetera. I just said, okay, I'm just going to release expectation, change the way I eat slowly, gradually. and see what happens. No more cold turkey. Well, I was on my way to losing 100 pounds, and I inspired several people around me to make some changes in their lives. And yeah, they lost weight,
100
but
pounds is
I
pretty
saw,
impressive.
I
Congratulations.
saw, thank you. And I saw type 2 diabetes, chronic migraines, chronic joint pain, all this stuff disappear. And I
Mhm.
thought, okay, I have no idea what I'm doing, but this is fulfilling. I got to figure out how to do this for a living. So I left my career on Wall Street. I went to naturopathic medical school in my 30s, and I did meet the love of my life in medical school. And after graduating, I realized, I really wanted to solve this whole burnout issue, right?
Mhm.
Because people are starting to talk about it in corporate America as well as certainly entrepreneurs. And generally with mental health, we've got two approaches. We've got psychiatry with the pharmaceutical approach, and we've got counseling and psychotherapy. And both are very important for different people at different times. Especially the counseling, EMDR, a major fan, refer people for that pretty
Mhm.
frequently. Um, but my journey to emotional health came through food. So there's more to this picture. And that ultimately became the origin for, okay, how do I create a model of emotional health that's very simple, that allows us to just focus on a key few areas, that when we optimize it, we're honoring the fact that we were not made for this crazy modern world that we live in. Our whole biology and our system is optimized for nature, and the circumstances that exist out in nature and the things that we needed to survive out in nature, that same machinery is now being applied to different things in our modern life. Some of it's helpful, some of it's not so much. And so, how do we adapt how we live to just honor the fact that we are optimized for a world we no longer live in? And ultimately, that's the five pillars. So, just like a plant would need water, sun, soil for our emotional health, it's psychology, understanding our own mind, relationships, nutrition, sleep, and body movement. It's very simple. Not always that easy to execute, but that's where I can help.
Excellent. Well, I want to dig into each of those a little bit more throughout our conversation. However, I don't want to gloss over the fact that you are a successful banker at one of the top banks on Wall Street, something that is in and of itself an accomplishment that many people would love to be able to achieve. And you left that and went to medical school later in life, became a an MD, and now you're combining the best of both worlds. And you also have a very strong technical acumen, as I learned. You really know your way around the IT infrastructure world. So you're combining all this in a new way to help people understand how they can uh, do better in their lives by tapping into these five pillars. Now, that makes me wonder how can a person know that they've hit the point where they need this help? Because some people don't even realize it. You didn't realize it,
Yeah,
right? Your sister helps
right.
you to appreciate it by looking at her visually. So, how can a person who's listening to us understand that they actually need this as well?
Yeah, think about it. By the way, this is not just humans. This is other animals, plants, even every living being in nature exists in or strives to reach a state of what's called homeostasis. It's
Mhm.
active balance. It's a little bit of give, a little bit of take. Just think about when you're riding a bicycle. Are you not moving laterally, or are you making lots of tiny adjustments to make sure that you're going straight? You're not falling over. So that's in a way an analogy for homeostasis. So with in nature, is energy abundant or is it scarce? It's scarce. We don't have the same amount of food resources if we were out in the wilderness as we do here in our modern world, at least those of us that are fortunate enough to have that. And
Mhm.
so we're optimized to not spend as much energy as possible. So as a result, our nervous system is the same way. Think about when you first learned how to drive, you know, gripping the steering wheel, checking the mirrors and your speed and everything else. And am I in my lane? All these things, it's very stressful. You're very tired by the time you reach your destination. Now we can come home from the grocery store, zone out. And it's like, oh, I'm home. Did you
Right.
actually zone out? You didn't zone out. Your brain was paying attention. We just chunk different aspects of the process so that it's not in our active awareness, but we are passively processing those things. We are made to not spend as much energy as possible. So, to answer your question, uh, we will tolerate so much and we'll change when it hurts enough.
Mm.
So, one thing I encourage
We will
my
change when it
clients
hurts enough.
what I encourage my clients and folks in general to do is look, life is going to give us painful moments. There's just emotional health is not about, oh, nothing bothers me, everything's fine. No, it's really about how do you respond to the adversity so that it doesn't knock you off, right? How do you respond to the challenges so that you don't shut down? That's what it's
Yes.
about. And so when we're looking at when do we need this work? Well, I would say 80% of the people that come to me because it hurts enough. But there's 20% that recognize, you know what? I'm in a decent place, but I know that if I am going to elevate myself as a leader in business, in my communities, and certainly not sacrifice my family life in the process, even though I've been okay till now, I'm going to do the work to make sure I'm ready for tomorrow when things get more stressful, there's more on my plate, and I, want to make sure that I can spend the time with my family the way that I intend to, right? And so, to answer your question, yes, we'll change when it hurts enough. And you'll know when you get to that point of like, okay, something's got to give, right?
Yes.
That's one opportunity, but the other one is just recognizing it's kind of like investing, right? You don't
Mhm.
start investing when you need the returns from it. You start investing earlier so that compound interest and things like that can work in your favor as time goes
Very
on. It's the
nice.
same thing with your emotional health. You start building those foundations, those building blocks now, those tools, and you refine them in the small moments so that when the big challenges in life come up, you already know how to address those things.
Very nice. And there's a big article in Business Insider today where the young lady says that, and I'm just going to read this verbatim. I burned out after working at Deloitte, Salesforce, Yelp, and Cruise. The pressure was unsustainable. So I quit corporate. And we hear a lot of that today where great leaders are just saying, I can't handle the stressors in corporate America. So, how does emotional health directly impact a leader's effectiveness?
Great question. And this is the part that I think there's people who get it and people that don't get it yet. I'll just
Mhm,
say yet because, we'll all get there at some point.
mhm.
When your emotional health is not in an optimal place, do we make better decisions or do we make poor decisions? Right? If we're stressed, are we going to make better decisions, rational decisions? No. In fact, when we are in a more emotional state, there's two areas of the brain, limbic system, your amygdala, especially, which is largely in control of our emotions, things that occur quickly that are even that when our amygdala is triggered, it actually shuts down our frontal cortex where rational thought occurs during these pressure moments. It's called amygdala hijack. So we can't think clearly or remember even the things that we might have said when we're angry or upset or those type of things. If we're going through some of those things, are you going to make a better decision for your clients, for your team, for yourself, for your family? Right? Well, no, of course not. You're really not even operating from the part of the brain that says, I want these things. So we make poor decisions. If our emotional health is not in a good place, do we strengthen our relationships or do we strain our relationships? Right? Our relationships get strained. If we are quicker, short, we say things to our kids, to our spouse that we might not otherwise have ever wanted to come out of our mouth. And then you got to go clean that up. And at a certain point, you can't even clean it up anymore. And I've seen that story happen over and over again. And
Mhm.
then there's like, okay, I've got to do something about this. Or they're on the verge of those things happening. It's I cannot let this happen. Need some help. And then
So, of
lastly,
course,
you
what
talk
what
about
happens with that obviously is that when the amygdala is hijacked, that moves us to the uh, fight, flight, or freeze response.
correct. Yes. Yes. And if we live too much in that sympathetic tone of fight, flight, freeze, we're not making better decisions. We're making short term decisions for survival, and not long-term decisions for, the things that we actually want in our business and in our life. And then lastly, if our emotional health is not in a good place, are we going to, if especially, let's say we love the impact of what we're doing, right? We know we're
Mhm.
making a difference, all of those things. But how sustainable is that if we sprint and burn out versus if we have a long-term strategy for how we stay in the game longer? I mean, think
Mhm.
about the analogy I give all the time for that in sports. Tom Brady was never the highest paid quarterback, right? He did that on purpose so that the rest of his team he could have a good team around him to win the championships. But on top of that, he took care of his body at a level that maybe no other quarterback ever did. So it's easy to say, okay, yeah, he's a freak. He played till 45 at a high level. No, no, no. There was a lot that went into him being able to do that. He stayed in the game longer and therefore, at a high level, and therefore won the most Super Bowls of anybody. And so if you stay in the game longer, that means to stay in the game longer, you have to take care of your emotional health.
Indeed. So people are listening to our conversation. They're thinking, okay, this makes sense. I need to do this, but how? You gave us the five
Right.
pillars earlier, and we know they can come see you, Dr. K. What's the other next step that someone can do who's listening to our conversation?
I think one thing to just remember is that just because you're struggling doesn't mean you're failing. And even if you don't want people to know you're struggling, I get it. I was there, right? I didn't want anybody to know that I was struggling back in, my Wall
I just
Street
want to
days.
I want to underline that really quick again. Just because you're struggling doesn't mean you're failing, which is precisely how people feel. Go right ahead.
Right. And we might feel like we're failing, but there's always a learning opportunity within it. And I'd simply say this: there's four areas. This is a deeper lesson than we might have time for, but there's generally four areas of human needs that if you just look at these areas and figure out what needs a little more attention, just focus on that a little bit more. Number one, stability. It's our need for food, shelter, those type of things out in nature. In our modern world, it's financial. If cash flow is in a bad place, we feel stability is in a bad place. It's difficult. Is that one area? Another one would be belonging. We need to feel like we belong to our families, our companies, our communities. Do we feel isolated? Sometimes it's okay. Well, I got my family, I got my company, but as a leader, and Eddie, I'm sure you've seen this over and over in your executive coaching, it can be very lonely where
Mhm.
you feel like, everybody's leaning on you and you have nobody to talk to, lean on everything else. Is the
No
sense
question
of
about it.
belonging a challenge, right? And then
Yes.
so seek out somebody or a community of people that are in a similar situation as you
Mhm.
that you might be able to be a part of. Number three is growth. Do you feel like you're stagnant? Are you better today than you were yesterday? And it doesn't have to be something significant in your business or in your life. It could be a hobby. What's something that you are committing yourself to? Or maybe it's just walking every morning or doing a morning routine and putting your phone away for the first 30 minutes of the day, waking up without your phone. Is it some of those things that you're stepping toward the next level of yourself? And then number four is purpose. Is there meaning behind what you do? Ultimately, we need to create a sense of why am I here? Why am I doing this every single day? And if that's absent, then we can look at some of those things. So it's stability, belonging, growth, and purpose. Those are four areas just to look at and say which one of these needs a little bit more loving, right? And what can I give a little bit more attention to, and we can move forward from there.
Very nice to be able to have that as a barometer to do a check. And I can't tell you how many times in my practice as an executive coach that I see highly successful people
Hmm.
all of a sudden feel like a failure. And it's because they're struggling for the first time because they recently received the promotion, right? They were used to just knocking it out. They had everything under control. And now in this new role, they're struggling. So they're feeling like a failure and not realizing that, hey, now you're just experiencing that next level of growth,
Right.
right?
Right.
And so with this growth comes new developing of new competence. So I like this barometer that you've laid out for people to examine uh, how they can look at their stability, their belonging, their growth, and their purpose. Indeed. And the other challenge that many leaders are facing in environments today, this comes up a lot. Uh, the amazing Amy Edmondson coined the phrase psychological safety. So when you think about the role that psychological safety plays in emotional health, what can leaders do to ensure that they are fostering that type of an environment so that their employees, their leaders at all levels feel psychologically safe so they can be emotionally healthy at work?
Well, the first step is to create emotional well-being and balance within yourself. Because if we show up stressed, overwhelmed, short with people, especially as a leader, you're instilling that into everybody else, right?
Mhm.
And so it has to always, and really for everybody, but especially leaders, it starts from within. Now, once we've done that, where we start to improve as a leader to ensure that we're showing up to conversations, being able to listen better, to really focus, give that person our undivided attention for that moment of time, all of those things. Now we can start to step back and rather than emotionally make a quick decision. Yes, sometimes, life moves fast, business moves fast. We got to make quick decisions. But the ones that have a little bit more of a people impact, right? If you've got, let's say, a high performer that all of a sudden they did something you're not very happy with, or you heard something about what they did and you don't have all the facts, it's also remembering that everybody's reports of what happened is their frame of reference, including the things that we see about ourselves. It doesn't mean that they're objectively true. This is that person's point of view. So when we can go into that conversation with that high performer and say, hey, tell me what's going on, right? And then even leaning in, maybe there's something in their personal life that you might want to just, because if you take a moment to really find out what's going on for that person and think 3 steps ahead. If I say this now, what is the second and third order consequences of doing it this way? Now, if you don't mind that they leave, let's say, then all right, well, that's one choice. But if you really are trying to retain and cultivate certain people on your team that you really love to have because you know you're going to move forward better with them,
Mhm.
then instead of addressing this moment for what it is in isolation, start thinking about, well, if I say this, how is that going to be perceived? How is that going to be received? Right? What are they going to want to do in as the rebound effect of that? And when we start to think about it from a larger sense, okay, what's the most important thing? And then we work our way backward from that. Now all of a sudden we do create a sense of psychological safety. But again, it starts with ourselves, and then it starts with second and third order consequences, thinking in terms of second order thinking.
Outstanding. Well, I'm talking to Dr. Karthik Ramanan, better known as Dr. K. He is an emotional health mentor. He is a part of the C Suite Network's Thought Council. He's a Thought Council leader, keynote speaker, and a best selling author of The Emotionally Healthy You. I want to pause right now to recognize the sponsors of the Keep Leading podcast, and that is Papillon MDC. Papillon MDC offers a product called Decision X, which is a bespoke on demand service designed to help your leaders overcome indecision, move forward with their work. Visit Papillon MDC and discover how you can help your team get unstuck, shift perspective, and advance today. And for those who are on the audio, that's PAPILLONMDC.ca. They're my friends out of Canada. And this podcast is a part of the C Suite Network. Together, we're turning the volume up on business. To uh, be able to access this podcast and others of my colleagues in the C Suite Network, visit c-suiteradio.com. All right. Now, Dr. K, in my excitement to talk to you and get your knowledge, I neglected just to ask you to highlight a couple of, you told us a little bit about your career, but is there anything else that you want to highlight for us that people should know about you and what you offer?
Yeah, I really believe that for us to make the impact that we want to make, we have to be emotionally healthy to get there, because this is more than a wellness strategy. It's a business strategy. Again, making better decisions, maintaining, strengthening relationships, staying in the game longer, not burning out. And so I love working with organizations, actually entrepreneurs, even solopreneurs and up, who are very people first, right? Who recognize that, yes, profits, if we're not profitable, our business is not going to survive.
Right.
Yes, profits, but also how do we take care of people and how maybe have a sense of purpose behind our business as well. And so I work with individuals who are executives as well as entrepreneurs as well as their companies. So there's really something in there for everybody, and I would say probably a good starting point is probably the book, The Emotionally Healthy You. It's a short read. It's not very long, um, and I think the Audible is just a hair over 5 hours. But I would say doing the exercises in the book is really what's where the magic is. So it's a quick read, but one that you'll want to lean into and spend a little bit more time to do the exercises to get the most benefit out of. But there's
And tell
something
us
in
where
there
they can
for
get it.
everybody. Yeah, Amazon. So Emotionally Healthy You: How to Own Your Past and Love Your Future. Um, it's Kindle, paperback, hardcover, and now Audible.
Fantastic. What's the most important message that you want our listeners to take away from our conversation today?
So the funny thing is, there's. I was trying to figure out how I wanted to close my book, right, when I was working on it,
Right.
and because it's kind of that thought, like, what do I want to leave behind as a and ultimately I just decided to make chapter 12 24 principles for an emotionally healthy life. So there were 24 principles for how to what to take away. But I'd simply say this: look, if if you're overwhelmed, just it's okay. You know, we are in a world we were biologically not designed for. And once you start to really wrap your head around that and you realize that the things that we experience in a day that give us a stress response, those stimuli, we experience as many of those in a day as we used to in a lifetime 100 plus years ago. So if you feel like it's just a little too much, if you feel like you're failing in different areas, it's okay. You're not a failure. You're just doing the best you can. And when you can start from that place of grace and say, all right, the only reason I'm responding to things the way I am right now is because that's how I've learned to adapt over the course of my lifetime. Some have led to my superpowers and some have led to maybe these critical thoughts and whatever else. Those all can change. Your future does not have to be a reflection of your past. You
Mhm.
can own your past and create a vision of who you want to be going forward and step into that vision. And as a result of that, you're going to enjoy your work. You're going to enjoy your life so much more. But on top of that, just think of the ripple effect that it's going to have on your family, the ripple effect it's going to have on your team and their families, your communities, the things that you can be that beacon of light, that beacon of hope that, hey, we can be successful and fulfilled at the same time. They don't have to come at the expense of one another. And ultimately, I just say, stop chasing joy, begin living in wonder. And I believe in your greatness.
Thank you. And is there a quote that you use that helps you to keep leading?
That's a great question. There are definitely a few that I have always resonated with. Henry Ford's "Whether you think you can or you think you cannot, you are right." But the other one I like to remind myself of, and it's a long one, so I won't recite the whole thing. But Teddy Roosevelt's "Daring Greatly," one that has certainly resonated with me because there are going to be people in our lives. The more we step up and expand and try to make a difference, there are going to be people who are critical. There are going to be people who try to tear us down, even the ones that might be close to us.
Mhm.
But just remember, we don't want to take criticism from somebody we wouldn't seek out for advice. And so, just remembering that who we spend our time with and the other factors of our emotional health are going to have a drastic impact on the world that we create for ourselves.
Outstanding. Well, again, this is Dr. Karthik Ramanan, an emotional health mentor, a member of the C Suite Network on the Thought Council. He's one of the Thought Council leaders. He's a keynote speaker and the best selling author of The Emotionally Healthy You. Get your copy on Amazon. Follow Dr. K on his social media channels. Stay connected to the wisdom that he's disseminating in everywhere that he's doing it. Thank you again for being a guest on the Keep Leading podcast.
I appreciate it, Eddie. Had a wonderful conversation. Enjoyed it.
Thank you. And thank you for listening. That concludes this episode, everyone. I'm Eddie Turner. reminding you that leadership is not about our title or our position. Leadership is action. Leadership is an activity. It's not the case of once a leader, always a leader. It's not a garment that we put on and take off. We must be a leader at our core and allow it to emanate in all we do. So, whatever you're doing, always keep leading.